All right, welcome here to Voice of the Jungle coming at you. This is post game from Bengals versus the Houston Texans, taking on the Texans with a win of 37-31. It's Minnick and Tanner tonight talking to you about the Bengals. Tyler and Burns are out partying, enjoying the holidays, just like I was last week during the Bengals win against the Steelers, the magnificent, fantastic win. Say what up, Minnick. How are you? Welcome to the show. What'd you think first off about what'd you think of the game today?
It was called a lot differently than I thought it was going to be because I definitely thought we were going to go run heavy like we did with the Steelers. I thought that Zach Taylor had started to come around to the idea that he was putting backup quarterbacks out there and backup running backs out there. And I thought it was going to be a continuance of what we saw against the Steelers, where it was kind of like the read option, running to the outside with the quarterback and kind of trying to hit the A and B gaps with the running backs.
So, like I said, I missed last week's game. Anything you want to say from last week? First off, let's just go ahead and get started with that win over the Steelers. What do you got to say about the win from last week? Any wise words to Juju Smith-Schuster?
Well, I think you should check yourself before you wreck yourself. Or in this case, Von Bell wrecked him. But anyway, I thought as far as the Bengals game plan went, it was an absolute masterpiece. Like, they went into this game complete underdogs. Everybody just counted them out. Like, you just saw Booger McFarland and co just each one by one pick the Steelers to win this game. And I felt sorry for anybody in Vegas who bet against the Bengals because that was, nobody saw that coming. It was a Christmas miracle.
No, and that's, I actually, like I told you guys, I had a flight that I had booked for the exact time I was given bad information. I mean, there was a flight. It was the exact time. It was a 4-hour flight to Las Vegas, and so I missed it. And as soon as I land, I texted the group and I said, what happened? I need to know now before I even check the Sports Center app. And when Tyler fired back, he said we won. I thought he was joking. I legitimately thought he was joking. And then I looked it up and I could not believe it. And then I saw the hit. It was fantastic. I was jumping up and down on the plane as soon as we hit the tarmac. And I got signal and was able to check that. But so now that we've talked about that, I want to jump back into the Bengals today. I know you've got a lot to say about this. So the Houston Texans, we looked really good at times. There were a few times where the defense slipped up. I mean, they did allow 31 points. It was a really high-scoring game. So if you played the over, you definitely won on that. But the Bengals looked, especially the first couple drives coming out, the last couple drives, they looked really well put together. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. And I took notes. Brandon Allen was on fire. I mean, Samaje Perine was on fire. T. Higgle Diggle was doing the whole Higgle Diggle. And everything was just moving in sync, in motion, what it needed to be doing today. What do you think about the Bengals after today? Do you think that this win against Houston was kind of a spark for the Bengals?
I think in every sense of the saying, we did just enough. And at the end of the day, a win's a win is a win. So it doesn't matter if you win ugly or, like win pretty, like a win is a win. And I was actually very impressed to see the poise of Brandon Allen coming off of his injury and coming back in after a game that Ryan Finley had just started and won. I was very surprised to see him come into this game and throw for those 371 yards that Burns wanted us to put on this podcast, and then the 2 touchdowns. He did an incredible job. It wasn't just him. A lot of the game plan was based off of slowing down the pass rush and just making sure we got the ball to the outside. So there was a huge emphasis placed on the screen game. I'm not even sure that there's any other team in the NFL that actually performed this many screenplays in a single game. Like the short yardage.
Beautiful to watch.
Oh yeah,
it really was.
It was really like an extension of the running game. So I guess I shouldn't say it was all that different than the Steelers win, because really, like, the way that the running game is viewed is through the short passes in the screen game, as well as pushing the A and B gaps on the inside and the outside runs. So I mean, we kind of did what we had to. And I guess Brandon Allen, with his arm strength, we got to take a few deeper shots than we would have if we would have rolled Ryan Finley back out there. But it was definitely another masterpiece, I thought. The defense was absolutely solid in the first half. The wheels came off for a little bit in the second half because I thought that David Johnson railed off a couple long runs against us that definitely shouldn't have happened.
He had a 48-yard run that was immaculate.
And, I remember seeing
like,
at one point.
But I'm looking at the stats right now, and you cannot compare. You can't compare what the Bengals did today, because we had 33 attempts at rushing, whereas the Texans only had 17. I mean, they're averaging the same amount of yards, essentially 169 to 166, with the average, of course, being shorter on ours. We're playing good old-fashioned Bengals ball. That's what the Bengals need to be playing. Samaje Perine is obviously filling the gap. At least, I don't want to say he's like the new Joe Mixon, but he's doing what he can to hold the team up. When you have a quarterback that's aware, that's not hurt coming off the injury, like you said, but is also being able to support. Libby's trying to go outside, but if you also have that quarterback that's supporting with the offense, throwing the receivers, you have a good receiving core out there. AJ Green making a few catches today, although of course he's not the old AJ Green that we saw, but there were a lot of weapons that we were able to use in the offense today to keep the ball moving, ground and pound, old Bengals style. What do you think about the play calling today, and more specifically, what do you think about the coaching?
I think it's all there right now, because you gotta, like I kept saying, like how we continued the running game with the screen game. Both are kind of like one and the same. We kind of use JJ Watt's aggressiveness against him and put the ball on the outside, and it kind of allowed us to open up other things. And then once they kind of started selling out against the run in the screen game, you started to see a couple deep balls go over the top. And that's like when AJ Green got a little bit more involved. We saw Alex Erickson catch a deep pass over the middle that set us up in the red zone. And then T. Higgins got involved too. So really everybody was involved, and I was like really happy to see that, because we were missing Tyler Boyd today, and I didn't know if that was going to affect us negatively. I'm sure we probably could have put even more points up there if we had him, but a win's a win, right?
A win is a win, dude. And you say it absolutely perfectly. A win is a win is a win, as it's been said before, and that's what we got today over the Texans. What do you think is? I want your honest opinions. I know that you're in the middle of writing something that will be up soon, and it's going to be published to the website. But what are your thoughts? Obviously, two really big games. Zach Taylor's first win on the road, also coming off of a Monday Night Football game against the Steelers, obviously a massive win. But what do you think this says about him? Because 3 weeks ago, there was an entire fan base screaming, fire Zach Taylor, fire Zach Taylor, fire Zach Taylor. Is everybody still screaming that? Because it's hard for me to be cheering for Zach Taylor when 3 weeks ago we're all saying, dude, you need to be looking for a new job. I'm still not sold. I don't think his place is in Cincinnati, and I do think that we need a new head coach. But it does surprise me what I've been able to see, at least in the past two games. What do you think? What's your take on Zach Taylor?
So I got to say, I think it's okay to be undecided, as a fan. And I think that, like, if you're on the side that wishes that he was fired like 2 or 3 weeks ago and you're kind of questioning what you thought and you're thinking about like switching sides, like that's okay. Because I mean, at the end of the day, um, like I mean, he has to prove himself, right? I don't think he should be completely let off the chain for his record. I think it was 6-24-1 now, if I remember that correctly. Um, we definitely need to keep that in memory. We can't forget that happened. But I do think that the past 2 weeks are indicative of progression. Like I think that there are signs of improvement. I think that you can see that he hasn't lost the locker room like we may have thought when that ESPN article came out. You remember the author, I don't. I didn't put a whole lot of stock into it because there wasn't a whole lot of named sources. But I really think that there's guys out there that are playing to win, and that's the entire reason that we show up on Monday Night Football in prime time and win a big one against the Steelers, because that's been a problem with the franchise throughout not only Taylor's tenure but Marvin Lewis's. So like for us to like kind of turn it around like that on Monday Night Football, that was incredible. I think if nothing else, that I think it should buy a little bit of time for Taylor. So I don't think anybody has
But
to be sold.
How much time? We're coming up on the end of the season. How much time can you give him?
So I think if I remember correctly, his contract continues through next year.
It does.
I think that he's kind of earned the right to at least coach the team through some games next season. You might not be able to argue the whole season. We might have to see what happens in the first half of the season, but I think that he's earned some time to get together a third draft, because his second one was absolutely spectacular with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Logan Wilson, Keem Davis Gathers, and then also Khalid Kareem. And like everybody makes comments about his first draft and how he moved up to get Ryan Finley and how he took Drew Sample too early. But I think if we're really going to grade his success in the draft, we have to grade him off of drafts that he's had time to legitimately prepare for, and after he's had a legitimate amount of time to assess his team's strength and weaknesses. So I think we give him the next draft and at least the next half of the season, given the resume he's putting out here towards the end, especially if he wins next week, because that would be huge against the Ravens.
That would essentially put the nail in the coffin for them, if I'm not correct or if I'm not wrong, right?
I haven't kept up too much on the playoff race with the Ravens, but
Pittsburgh did clinch the division, although I hate to say it, but they still suck. Pittsburgh sucks. They always will suck. I hate Pittsburgh. But I want to know if you saw the video. You were just getting back on social media. Did you see the video posted to Twitter this week by the man himself, Joe Burrow, of him up and walking, although it was very slow and it kind of looked like my grandma. But did you see that video of him walking?
Yeah, man, it was the best birthday present ever. It was like Jesus was walking over water on my birthday.
Over that. Happy birthday yesterday to you. To no one else but to you. Happy birthday. But yeah, that was awesome to see Joe Burrow. What do you think, just quarterback wise? What do you think? Because we've obviously seen a lot of talent within the two quarterbacks that we have, Ryan Finley and Brandon Allen. But we've seen them both show up and play when we need them to. Who do you start next week?
I think you got to keep feeding Brandon Allen. Like, I mean, he's been sharp through his past two starts. He's really like knocked or like taken to heart the whole idea of ball security, because in his first two starts, he had an interception in each of them and a fumble in each of them. And then the past two starts, he had none of that happened, and he kind of kept it together. And I just think you definitely give it to the guy who can throw, because we can't run the option game against the Ravens because they practice against it all day with Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, you can't run the option game against the people who are the best at the option game. So I think we roll out Brandon Allen out there. I'm sure that Coach Zach Taylor and Lou Anarumo are going to come up with a better game plan now that they've saw him once already this season. I'm sure it's not going to be a blowout like it was earlier, but I could be wrong. But I'll try to be optimistic on this one. Another thing I did want to mention, though, I actually didn't remember it until Paul Dehner Jr. said it before the game this morning, or actually this afternoon. But he was saying how during Deshaun Watson's rookie season, he also tore his ACL and had to go through reconstructive surgery. So I think that ironically, the team we played today, their quarterback should be kind of like a beacon of hope for our franchise in a weird sort of way. Because if that man is able to come off of that kind of injury and play at the level that he's playing now and kind of carry the team and put it on his back, then I think we should have hope for Joe Burrow to make it through his injury and be able to come back in full force even better than he is right now.
Do you think that Joe Burrow is going to come back to a team that is going to be, and I'm going to go back to coaching here, do you think he's going to want to come back to Zach Taylor, or do you think that while he's out, do you think he's kind of saying, hey, I wish they would just fire him? Like he's had some time to work, and obviously we don't know what's going on in his mind. He's not going to bash the Bengals, and it's even hard to sit here and try and bash Zach Taylor after he's just proven to us in the last 2 games. But would you imagine him kind of saying, hey, do you think they kind of wish they'd clean house?
I don't think he's on that ship. I think he's legitimately one of the teammates who's completely bought into the idea of seize the day and like really probably believes that they're just one building block away from having a winning record and actually competing in the AFC North, which is probably arguably the toughest division in football. So if you're going to ask me about it, like I really think that he probably is behind the head coach that was responsible for picking him first overall. I don't think that anybody who is in his position would really want anybody else calling the plays for him because, like he's coming up with Zach Taylor. You don't want somebody else coming in off the street, completely changing the scheme, completely having to relearn new things and potentially being detrimental to your success. So like I think he knows what he has with Zach Taylor, and I think the offense has shown promise under Zach Taylor because I mean Joe Burrow in his first 10 games, having 5 of those games with 300 yards passing. That's not all Joe Burrow. Like I know Joe Burrow is great. I know he was the number 1 overall pick, but you have to scheme him right and you have to draw up plays right. So Joe's only one half of the equation here, and I really think that Zach Taylor doesn't get enough credit. And I mean, now I can probably openly come out and say this now because we got 2 wins under our belt these past 2 weeks. Now, hopefully I don't get a bunch of hate mail at my door for it. But yeah, I'm still on the Zach Taylor train, still here.
So what would you think? I know there's a lot of different coaching options, and this is just something that I was thinking about. What would you think if Urban Meyer were to come down? I know that he's been kind of eyeing a jump into the NFL. If Zach Taylor were to fail out next year, imagine we get no wins next year with Zach Taylor. What would you think if we got the old Urban Meyer down here?
I'm torn on that because Urban Meyer's the same man who thought that he saw more talent in Justin Fields than Joe Burrow. So
that's true. That's true.
So with that in mind, that's very upsetting, and it makes me question what he would do with our franchise quarterback. Now, with that being said, on the other side of the coin, you have a coach with a very good reputation in college football. Probably nobody else even compares, to be honest. And you just everybody's got to flirt with the idea, can he translate that success to the NFL? And so I think that's where it remains to be seen. And it's like, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Like if Zach Taylor bombs out next year and he blows his last chance, in my mind, what should be his last chance, then I think that you would strongly have to consider him.
Wide receiver wise, I want to talk about this, the hot topic, always hot, especially now. Do you think and obviously he's still a proven player, but AJ Green, what do we do with him?
Man, I was watching today's game, and the past like 4 or 5 weeks, I've been saying, man, we can't afford to franchise tag this guy next year. I don't think we can afford his contract next year, especially if we want to dive deep in free agency. Dude, it's a really tough call. I think
Let
you
him
got to
end
take
up going. I mean, would he end up? Does Tampa Bay have cap? Would they take him? He would fit in perfectly down there with Bruce Arians, or not Bruce Arians, but at least with Tom Brady if they keep Bruce Arians. But
they don't have cap space this season. Obviously, it doesn't matter because he can't leave the Bengals at this point with the trade deadline pass.
right.
But next season they might. I would have to like look into it, but possibly. I think, but going back to like what we do with him, I think honestly the smartest thing you can do, and I really hate to say it, it actually like tears me apart a little bit inside, but I think you got to kind of take the Bill Belichick method to heart, take your heart out of it, and really do what's smart for the team and smart for the franchise. And I think you have to let him walk, because I think that at the end of the day, even if he gives you like a team friendly deal, it's going to cost too much and it's going to impede our ability to improve the offensive line next season, which is the number one pain point, not wide receiver.
I think I totally agree with you with AJ Green. I mean, if he is going to get to that point and he doesn't want to be here and somebody else is going to pay his money, let him walk. I mean, we've got new players up and coming. You can't hold on to somebody forever. And to your point, the Bill Belichick approach works. You know, even though they're rebuilding a team now, you know, it works not necessarily in the sense of quarterback wise, but look at the players that have come in and out of the Patriots that have been all-stars that they swap. You know, the minute that you start to show signs of aging, or, you know, if you hit your prime and they have no use for you, they're going to get rid of you. And I totally think that we should take the same approach because, you know, I hate to say this, but get what we can out of him from a trade, or not from a trade, but or no, damn it, that's right, we can't trade him. But
I mean, get what you can out of him the rest of the season, and that's enough. Like, I mean,
yes.
I really hope that next week that he ends up crowning himself the touchdown leader of the Cincinnati Bengals. I
taking over Ocho Cinco's record would be fantastic.
I would love that for him, but it's like we're saying about Bill Belichick. He's the king of selling high and buying low, and that's what you got to do in this league if you want to set up a dynasty for years to come. And bringing up the Patriots, I think that they're being unfairly scrutinized this year because they had 7 or 8 players, I think 5 or 6 of them starters, opt out due to COVID. So their record this year wasn't really indicative of what sort of roster that Bill Belichick actually had. So, like, you know, like everybody sees Tom Brady leave and say, oh no, he finally made the biggest mistake of his life. He finally moved on from a player too soon that he couldn't have afforded to. But I don't think that's really the truth. I think next year we're going to see him come back into the league. I don't know if Cam Newton's going to be the quarterback. Probably not. There's going to be a couple free agents out there. There's also going to be quite a few quarterbacks in the draft that he could move up and snag, or just sit back and wait and see if they drop to him. But yeah, I mean, just another little side tangent. Like, I really do think that the Bengals need to adopt that mythology, though. Like, we need to buy high, sell low, or sorry, reverse, sell high, buy low.
All right. Speaking of that, I want to get your opinion, and this will be one of the last topics we touch on, but what are your thoughts for the draft? I know everybody's talking different things. What are you thinking? What's on your mind as far as the draft goes? Where do you think we need to go?
So I think that there are a lot of people throwing Penei Sewell out there, and I think you do take that draft pick if he falls down to you. And it gets a little bit harder with every win, which sucks to say because, dude, like I love seeing the Bengals win after these past 2 seasons of disparity. But yeah, if he drops you, I think you take him. If not, I think you definitely have to consider trading down. But at the same time, you also have to look at the best players that are available in the draft when it comes down to your pick. Because I know Brendan had mentioned earlier that the Jets were intending on keeping Sam Darnold and investing in the line. I don't buy any sort of, I guess, any sort of publicity from the Jets in that regard, because they could just be blowing smoke out there to kind of see if they can get anybody to trade for the draft pick like the Bengals. And they're probably really going to take a QB. Like, I mean, if Trevor Lawrence falls to them, do you really think they're going to pass on him? Because Sam Darnold's a huge question mark. And I think he's coming up there like on 5 years if he's not already there this year. But other things, I know there's a couple good tight ends in the draft. I think one of them's Kyle Pitts. I think that you kind of have to look at maybe upgrading that position as well. And not that Uzama's not great, but like you always, like if we're talking about increasing our ability to block while also increasing our weapons, it's never a bad thing. So I mean, if you can have Uzama and him, then like I don't think that's a terrible idea. The defense might need a little work on as far as the pass rush goes, because Geno Atkins is past his prime. Carl Lawson might be leaving in free agency, and of course we lost Carlos Dunlop. So those are all like things to consider when we go into this draft. But then even after all of that, you have to consider what we'll end up doing in free agency.
So today, to wrap this all up, today, who do you think the game ball goes to for today?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think if I had to give it to anybody, can I cut it in half?
Sure.
I think I would.
Or you can just give out two, so that way you don't have to totally decimate a ball.
So I think honestly, dude, like I would probably give it to Sam Hubbard and Marcus Hunt. And I know Brendan Burns will eventually be watching this and probably screaming at me and being like, "Are you kidding me? Like Brandon Allen deserves that ball, no question." But I mean, the man didn't get 371 passing yards without tons of yards after catch from all the screen plays. Like they were designed for that. And I believe that Brandon Allen totally did his part, but Marcus Hunt and Sam Hubbard sealed the deal. He took the game away from Deshaun Watson. Sam Hubbard, on more than one occasion, got up in Deshaun Watson's face and ended drives. So I think honestly, like when it came down to it and they sealed the deal for the Bengals at the end, like that's what I think is deserving of the game ball. Those two.
I can't deny that. Like I can't argue that. I do think that's a really valid candidate for game ball. Although I'm gonna have to give my game ball to Samaje Perine today.
Yeah, that's another good one.
I truly believe him coming out of his shell, finding out where he belongs in this offense, and without Mixon there, he really does have the stage to shine, and he has shined. Like he is proven now, and especially seeing him today, you give him the ball, he's going to make the runs. He's going to make it happen. He's got the 2 touchdowns today, and I really do think that he had a 46-yard run that was just incredible, and I believe that was on a screen pass, and yeah. He is really showing what it's like to, or he's really showing really good chemistry with Brandon Allen and even with Ryan Finley also. He is showing that he's doing what he needs to do. Like I said, when Mixon's not there, he's standing up. Him and Gio are working well together. They're sharing the ball, almost evenly. So yeah. I think today my game ball goes to Perine.
I don't think that's a bad call. Like I think he's like it's really hard because I think today like a lot of people shared in this win, and that's the way you want to be when you win with this many points on the board. Because like like I said, you got Sam Hubbard and you got Marcus Hunt up there on defense, really containing Deshaun Watson and giving him some pressure that he's not always used to seeing because of his scrambling ability. But then, yeah, like on the offensive side of the ball, like you got Brandon Allen turning out his second great performance with the touchdowns. You got Samaje Perine putting on his best rushing performance of the year. So I think that's definitely like a very valid option. And then even another possible candidate could have been AJ Green, because he looked revitalized in this one. They kept going to him in deep, like in 3rd and long situations. They kept going for him on the slant routes on the inside.
Now, Houston's defense was clogging him up, but I totally agree that you could give a game ball to AJ Green. He played really well today.
Yeah, I think the only thing that stops him is he didn't get that touchdown to pass Chad Johnson today. I think if he would have got that, I think it would have been unanimous that he probably deserved it.
Absolutely. And assuming that he gets it next week, because I think as a leader, what Zach Taylor needs to do is march into that locker room today and say, look, guys, we've got momentum. We're coming off a win. What we need to do, and do this to honor the veteran, give it to AJ Green, draw up plays to make sure that he gets that record next week. You're on a losing season. You're trying out everything. You've got backup quarterbacks. You've got good players. You've got good assisting players. This is his last year. I mean, give him the ball at all costs. I think next week needs to be about beating the Ravens, number one, and I think it needs to be about giving AJ Green that record.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that up, because I was actually listening to the first half of the game on the radio, and then when I got back home from vacation, we watched the second half back here at home. But when I was listening to the first half on the radio, and Brandon Allen's first 2 deep balls were both to AJ Green. They were on the Texans side of the field. In both situations, he was going down the sideline. And I think the one on 3rd and long was almost intercepted. It was bobbled up in the air. And I'm not really sure what happened on 4th, but it was 4th and short, I think, actually. And they weren't able to complete that either. And everybody thought it was kind of strange that they didn't just draw up a play where, they may have been able to run the ball or throw the ball short, because they'd been working all afternoon long. But I think that in the back of Zach Taylor's mind, he was wanting to get AJ Green that touchdown. And that's what I came away with in the first half when I saw him heard him call those 2 plays deep to AJ.
And because regardless if AJ Green does get that record or not, he is going to be a Cincinnati hero forever. He has his name cemented in the ground. He is a true Cincinnati player. And we'll end on that note, just honoring AJ Green just as a great Cincinnati Bengal. Hats off to him. Hopefully next week he gets that touchdown. Minnick, you got any last words? Anything last you want to say?
Nope. I just think best of luck here in week 17. I think it's going to be a closer one than people think. Like, I think that Zach Taylor's showing his true colors and his true grit here at the end of the season. And I'd like for everybody to hold out a little bit of hope, and, let's see what we can do.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you. That recaps it. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. Check out the website. We're going to be posting articles. Going to be you'll find everything online. So go to the website, voiceofthejungle.com. All right. Thanks, Bennett.